Okay, so I am begging you to own less stuff. And no, I am not saying that to do this you have to become a minimalist. You can definitely own nice things. But I learned kind of the hard way that every single thing that you own ends up costing you so much more than just money. And most people never even realize it. Because after years of chronic overconsumption and paying off 6 figures of debt as an ex-shopaholic, I realized the stuff that I always felt so in control of buying was actually controlling me. So you know what? Walk with me here, because this video will change your perspective. At the very least, it'll save you some money and it will completely change your life when it comes to how you see your stuff. Starting with the first reason that completely blew my mind when I finally figured it out, and it kind of has given me the ick when it comes to chasing more stuff ever since. And it is that, yeah, there is a hidden cost to all of your stuff. You're basically paying something that I like to call the stuff tax. And look, if you own stuff, you pay the stuff tax no matter what. You may have already paid it in money, but now you have to pay it in time, in energy, in maintenance, in cleaning. Coming from someone who used to be a full-blown shopaholic, and I was basically just obsessed with acquiring more things. That's basically how I spent not only all of my disposable income, all of my money, but that's how I spent a lot of my time. I spent my time researching things. I spent my time looking for something to want. I spent my time figuring out how I was going to pay for it. I was paying it in money stress for even years after the fact. 1 second, this is going to get loud. And if we're spending all of our money on things that we don't actually care about, that is just creating clutter and stress in our homes, then it's really not worth paying that extra tax. And if that sounds a little bit too abstract for you, then let me put it into another perspective. In North America alone, the self-storage business is worth over $38 billion. Yes, that's right. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry for people to pay money to store stuff that is not even living in their homes. Like, look at all this stuff here. This is furniture we need to assemble. This is stuff that we have to get rid of. And it's stressing me out. I'm paying for it in my emotional stability right now. But this next reason why is going to bother some of you, because it really bothered me when I first figured it out. And it's the fact that if you're somebody who owns too much stuff, who is constantly thinking about stuff and always buried in it, it means you have low standards. And don't get mad at me for saying it, I will explain. None of that is our fault, because there is an entire industry, a $1 trillion industry, telling you to buy things that you don't actually need or even want. And no judgment, because that was absolutely me for years, and I think we are so conditioned to buy into the idea that more is always better. But one thing I had to learn when I really turned around my shopping habits and just how I see stuff and things in my home and in my life overall is that it is an absolute flex to be picky, which means that you have a really high bar when it comes to how you spend your money. I will never judge you on what you buy and where you buy it from, but I do think it's important to make sure that you have a set of criteria and standards that you stick to every time to make sure it feels like your money was well spent. And as soon as I stopped spending money on things that were just okay was when I stopped bringing in so much useless crap that I didn't really actually want to begin with. I saved a ton of money, my space ended up being a lot less cluttered, and it became so much easier to say no to something because you knew it didn't hit your set of standards. And if you're not sure on what your standards are quite yet, one of my favorite sayings that I love to think about every time I'm about to spend money, or even if I'm about to get rid of something, is simply, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. If you feel that little bit of lukewarm about something, or if it's just okay, then I think you really know your answer deep down. But you know what? I am not exempt from the stuff problem either, so let's go deal with that right now. Because this is a harsh truth that I had to come to terms with, especially as I was getting rid of all of my stuff. And it is the fact that most of the time when you think you're buying a solution, you're really buying a whole new set of problems. Like, I just got this dresser and I haven't had a dresser in the last 3 years. I am absolutely actually thrilled by this. But now I have to think about, like, will my organizers fit? Will my clothes fit? What if they don't fit? Then I need to go buy this organizer and this, when really I think the actual solution is I need to get rid of stuff. So Let's take some time to organize my dresser, and we're gonna declutter at the same time because I know I can get rid of some things. And I think that's only natural. When something in your life feels like a problem, our main instinct in order to solve it is to add something. It actually doesn't come naturally to humans to take things away. We are hunter-gatherers after all, but that's often where the solution lies. Like my solution here as I'm organizing my sock drawer is I don't necessarily need to go out and buy more organizers right now. I probably just need less socks, which I haven't gone through in ages, and some of these are pretty gross right now. And I have like a whole drawer full of sports bras because I am a very proud gym girl, but some of them I know I haven't worn in ages. They're cute and I can think of all the ways that I could wear them, but if I'm not, then the harsh truth is that it's just taking up space and it's making me more stressed out and irritated every time I open my drawer trying to reach for the sports bra that I actually wear. In my experience, if your stuff is stressing you out, then simplifying and decluttering first is almost always the answer. And only then, once you've gotten rid of some things and created that space, that's when you can go out and get the organizers, get the containers, get the other things that you feel like you need to make that space feel more usable and practical. But you have to do the step that most people miss, and that's the decluttering part. And this mindset is easier said than done because literally as I opened up my drawer, I was like, my organizers aren't gonna fit. All my underwear is not gonna fit. But this is an opportunity I need to take to start getting rid of things to make it work in the space that I have. So you know what, don't let those aesthetic organizing videos get you. At the end of the day, if you're not actually getting rid of anything, then to me, that often just looks like organized hoarding. This is another reason why I'm begging you to get rid of your things. And when I actually came to realize this, it was harder to accept than I can admit. Whether it's the fact that you feel compelled to buy more things to organize your stuff, or feel like you can't stop buying things, that's probably because you're using shopping and acquiring stuff as a way to self-soothe. In the sense that you're either trying to escape a feeling or create one to feel better. But let me tell you, as much as we think that shopping can buy happiness, it's probably the most expensive way to try to get that. And let me tell you, the first time I realized that I had way too many things and started decluttering was probably the happiest I've ever been, because I was learning to let go of things and I was seeing how much weight and value I put on this stuff that I wasn't even using. Things that were supposed to make me happier, richer, cooler, prettier, more confident, none of it actually did that. And I actually ended up feeling those things that I was trying to buy the more I let go. Because if you really think about it, I think decluttering takes a lot of confidence. You have to be really sure in what you're planning to get rid of, and it really demands you being decisive, reflective, and firm. You're forced to revisit why you bought something. You have to deal with the discomfort of why you never ended up using it, or even the shame and embarrassment of that wasted money. But I think it's actually important to face those feelings, and there's a huge sense of accomplishment in letting go. Like, I'm actually excited to get rid of some of these things because it's just stuff. It's okay. And if you're feeling inspired to declutter right now, I think that is awesome. But I want to be really clear here that getting rid of everything is not the goal. I think that actually puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on people and it kind of misses the point. I prefer to come at it with the mindset of curation. As in, I'm really only focusing on keeping the things that I love, that I actually wear, and that I genuinely want to keep. So when it comes to curation, it's not necessarily just about owning nothing. To me, I think it's about keeping more of the things that you actually want and getting rid of the things that you really don't. And that's pretty good. I have a leftover organizer here. And this is all the stuff I got rid of. It was not a hell yes, so let's donate it. Okay, let me show you what we have done so far in the dresser. Eee. Socks, undies, my bathing suits, and my belts all organized here with these little IKEA drawer organizers. Very, very handy. So this is feeling quite good to me. It's feeling nice and organized. We also purged some things because that also brings me into the next thing, and it's that owning less isn't necessarily about getting rid of everything and doing a huge massive purge and then you're done. Decluttering and curating your space requires maintenance. Because one thing that most people miss is that the way you feel about something today, there is a chance that you're going to feel differently about it later on down the line. The truth about stuff is that it's always coming in and out of our lives, and we can do our best when we are buying the thing, but eventually you may no longer need it, and I don't think it's helpful to hold on to it just because you feel guilty. We go through transitions in life, people come in and out of our lives, and so does your stuff. Because at the end of the day, even though we all are trying to do our best, it will eventually turn into junk. And another really unexpected benefit of having less and buying less is that you're actually going to feel richer and happier. Yes. And it's because you're no longer going to burden yourself with things like decision fatigue and the paradox of choice. There's a famous study from the 90s called the Jam Study that demonstrates this perfectly, where researchers set up 2 booths in a grocery store, one with up to 20 plus options of jam versus another booth with only 3. And even though the booth that had over 20 different choices of jam attracted more attention, fewer people actually ended up buying because they were overwhelmed by choice. This just goes to show that more options may initially be more attractive, but it can easily lead to overwhelm and just doing nothing about it at all. And when you have too much stuff in your life, the exact same thing happens. So yeah, less stuff means less things to clean, less things to think about, but it also means things like less overwhelm, less choice, and more space to think about the things that you actually care about, which to me, that's a good thing. And here's another really unexpected benefit of owning less that I think stole so much of my time and money for years, and that is you just stop buying for your fantasy self. Like, think about the last time you bought something that you were so excited about and then you never ended up using it. Just like all that stuff I decluttered today. And I know how the speech goes. You told yourself, I'm gonna wear it here. I'm gonna look so cool. This is gonna make me so much more productive and organized. I'm even gonna get rich and people will start respecting me when I buy this thing. And in that moment, it wasn't necessarily you doing the talking. It was your fantasy self. You're not buying for who you are and the life you live today. You're buying for somebody else, for the person you dream of becoming. But the problem with the fantasy self and the way that they build up clutter in your life and drain your bank account is when you don't actually use those things. Whether you're the fashion girl, the chef, the runner, the athlete, if you bought running shoes because you want to become a runner, then start running. You can do that. I'm not saying not to. But the problem happens when you're buying those things and never actually using them. All it does is fill your home and drain your bank account. And even worse is that it completely kills your confidence because you told yourself you were going to do something and then you didn't. So, our fantasy selves, they have expensive tastes, they have big goals, but they also have zero follow through. But when you start to become extremely picky and thoughtful about what you buy and about what you keep, you'll start to notice that those fantasy self purchases creep in a lot less frequently. And once you do start making efforts to own less and curate your life a little bit more, this next thing that happens, I actually found to be really unexpected, but you really start to pay attention to what you actually value. And you can put more time, money, and effort there instead of to your stuff. So for example, when I started shopping less, curating my closet more, and focusing on using my things, I actually was able to direct a lot more time and, more importantly, money toward things that I actually cared about. I started exploring new hobbies like going to the gym. I ran my first half marathon. And I actually found that I enjoyed those things so much more than shopping. Now, I will say my budget for gym gear and things like running shoes did increase a little bit, but these are all things that I actually use, so that's okay. But the point is that I started to put more time, money, effort, and energy into other interests that fed me more than just the constant acquisition of stuff. For you, it could be art, it could be baking, it could be creating, it could be learning a new language. But the funny thing is I didn't realize that I really truly cared about those things more until I started getting rid of all the junk that I didn't want. And when I stopped spending money on nonsense that I thought would make me feel better, when really it was things like going to the gym and challenging myself that really moved the needle for me more. Now I can't wait to get rid of all this stuff. So those are just a few of the reasons why I am begging you to own less stuff. Remember, you don't necessarily need to become a minimalist to benefit from owning less or buying less, but these are definitely just some of the unexpected benefits to doing it. But we really only scratched the surface of why you want to own less. The next thing you need to do is actually start decluttering. So watch this video next where I show you exactly how you can declutter your entire life in as little as 24 hours. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.